Picture this: a windowless room 4 stories beneath the Pentagon. The lights are the color of weak coffee. 11 screens line the far wall, each one streaming a different satellite feed from the Persian Gulf. It is 2:14 in the morning, Eastern Standard Time. A woman named Amanda sits at the central workstation, her fingers hovering over a keyboard she hasn't touched in 90 seconds. She is an intelligence fusion analyst for the Office of Naval Intelligence, and right now she is staring at something that should not exist. On screen number 7, a commercial synthetic aperture radar image captured 40 minutes ago by a European Earth observation satellite. She can see the outline of the Strait of Hormuz. The deep-water shipping channel is visible as a dark ribbon between the coastlines of Iran and Oman. Normally, that ribbon is filled with white dots, the radar returns of supertankers. Tonight, the ribbon is empty. LNG carriers, container ships, the ceaseless mechanical heartbeat of global commerce. Not one vessel is moving through the strait, not one. Amanda scrolls back through the last 6 hours of imagery. She can see the moment it began. At approximately 2000 Zulu time, every eastbound and westbound vessel in the traffic separation scheme began to slow, then stop, then reverse course. It happened almost simultaneously, as if someone had flipped a switch. She pulls up the Lloyd's List maritime tracking feed. There it is. A single bulletin, issued 93 minutes ago by the Iranian Maritime Authority, transmitted on all international shipping frequencies and posted to every port authority database in the Gulf. The language is bureaucratic, almost calm. The Islamic Republic of Iran hereby declares a temporary maritime exclusion zone encompassing all waters within the Strait of Hormuz, effective immediately. All commercial and military vessels are advised to vacate the zone within 4 hours. Vessels remaining within the exclusion zone after the stated deadline do so at their own risk. This measure is enacted in the interest of national defense and sovereign security. Amanda reads it twice, then a third time. She has seen Iranian threats before. She has processed hundreds of them. Bluster about closing the strait has been a staple of Iranian rhetoric since the 1980s. But rhetoric does not empty shipping lanes. Rhetoric does not cause the global maritime insurance market to freeze. And rhetoric does not explain what she sees on screen number 3. A live infrared feed from an MQ-9 Reaper drone orbiting at 28,000 feet over the Gulf of Oman. On that feed, she counts 8 Iranian Ghadir-class midget submarines moving out of their pens at Bandar Abbas Naval Base in a formation she has never seen in any previous exercise. On that feed, she counts 8 Iranian Ghadir-class midget submarines moving out of their pens at Bandar Abbas Naval Base in a formation she has never seen in any previous exercise. The world woke up the next morning to a headline that read like fiction. Every major news network carried it. Oil futures had gapped up overnight by $63. Brent crude opened at $151 a barrel, the highest price ever recorded in nominal terms, surpassing even the speculative peak of 2008. But the headline did not capture the true magnitude of what was happening, because the headline focused on price. Price is a symptom. The disease was something far deeper. The disease was the sudden, violent revelation that the global energy system has no immune response to the closure of a single 21-mile-wide waterway. For 30 years, every Western energy security strategy has been built on a doctrine of redundancy. In reality, it is a house of cards balanced on one hinge, and that hinge is the Strait of Hormuz. Remove it, and everything downstream collapses not in weeks, not in days, but in hours. The reason is not just volume, though the volume is staggering. The reason is concentration. Qatar, the world's largest exporter of liquefied natural gas, ships 100% of its LNG through the strait. Kuwait exports 100% of its crude through the strait. Iraq exports 95% through the Gulf, the vast majority transiting the strait. Saudi Arabia has the east-west pipeline to the Red Sea port of Yanbu, but it was originally designed to carry only 5 million barrels per day and has not been maintained at full capacity for years. Even if every bypass pipeline were operating at maximum tomorrow, they could replace less than 30%. The remaining 70% simply vanishes. There is no substitute, workaround, emergency lever. But here is the part that should genuinely unsettle you, because this crisis did not begin in the strait. It began in a spreadsheet. 6 months before the exclusion zone was declared, Amanda had flagged an anomaly in Iranian procurement patterns. Working with signals intelligence and open-source data, she had identified a series of Iranian front companies purchasing unusually large quantities of specific materials. 6 months before the exclusion zone was declared, Amanda had flagged an anomaly in Iranian procurement patterns. Individually, each purchase was unremarkable. Collectively, they formed the exact bill of materials for the construction of advanced naval mines. Not the crude contact mines of the 80s. These were modern influence mines. Devices that sit on the seabed, detect the unique magnetic or acoustic signature of a passing vessel, and detonate only when the target matches pre-programmed criteria. They can be programmed to arm themselves days or weeks after deployment, making it impossible to know exactly when a shipping lane becomes lethal. Amanda compiled her findings into a 37-page assessment. It was marked significant, but not critical. It was filed. It was noted. It was not acted upon. The reason, she later learned, was bureaucratic. Her assessment conflicted with the prevailing CENTCOM estimate, which held that Iran's mine warfare capability was primarily a retaliatory tool. And in the intelligence community, information that does not fit the framework does not change the framework. It disappears. While Amanda's report gathered dust in a classified database, Iran was not idle, and the scale of what Tehran had quietly accomplished would only become clear when it was far too late to stop it. The IRGC's naval mining operation, which U.S. intelligence would later designate Operation Tariq al-Quds, was executed in 3 phases. Phase 1 involved pre-positioning mine components at dispersed locations along the Iranian coastline using civilian fishing vessels and commercial dhows to avoid detection. Phase 2 involved the covert assembly of mine packages at 11 separate sites, each operated by a small cell of specialists trained at the Naval Warfare Academy on Farsi Island. Phase 3, the actual deployment, occurred over a single 72-hour window, using a combination of the Ghadir-class submarines Amanda had observed, civilian boats modified with concealed mine rails. By the time the exclusion zone was announced, an estimated 300 to 400 mines had been laid in patterns designed to create overlapping kill zones. Iran had not merely blocked the door. Iran had mined every window, every hallway, every fire escape. The first vessel to trigger a mine was not a warship. It was the MT Stellar Horizon, a very large crude carrier carrying 2.1 million barrels of Iraqi Basra heavy crude. Her master, a 61-year-old Greek captain named Dimitrios Karagiannis, had not received the Iranian bulletin. His communications officer had been troubleshooting a satellite antenna fault. At 0617 local time, an influence mine detonated directly beneath the Stellar Horizon's engine room. The blast ruptured the double hull across a 23-meter section. The ship did not sink immediately, but she was dead in the water, burning, listing 7 degrees to starboard, blocking the eastbound shipping lane entirely. Captain Karagiannis issued a distress call on VHF Channel 16. Within minutes, every vessel within 100 nautical miles heard it, and every vessel within 100 nautical miles stopped. The image of the Stellar Horizon burning in the strait became the defining photograph of the crisis. It was not dramatic in the way of a warship explosion. It was mundane. The message was, the global economy runs on trust, and the trust just died. Because the mine did not just destroy a ship, it destroyed an assumption. The assumption was that the sea is open, that international waters are free, that a tanker flying a Marshall Islands flag can transit a 21-mile strait without being blown apart. Lloyd's of London suspended all new war risk policies for the Persian Gulf within 4 hours of the Stellar Horizon detonation. The practical effect was instantaneous. Without war risk insurance, no tanker can legally sail. Without a tanker, no oil moves. Without oil moving, no contract is fulfilled. Every refinery, every petrochemical plant in Asia that depends on Gulf crude begins counting down to the moment its storage tanks run dry. Japan, 37 days. India, 19 days. After that, rationing. After rationing, shutdown. After shutdown, darkness. But while the world stared at the burning tanker, the military crisis was metastasizing in ways the public could not see. Beneath the surface of the Gulf, a silent war had begun. The U.S. Navy Mine Countermeasures Squadron, based in Bahrain and consisting of 4 Avenger-class mine countermeasures ships, received orders to begin clearing operations within hours of the first detonation. The problem was scale. The Avenger-class ships are wooden-hulled vessels designed to creep through minefields at speeds of 5 to 8 knots. They are effective. They are also painfully slow. During Operation Desert Storm in 1991, U.S. forces took weeks to clear a relatively small number of Iraqi mines. The Iranian minefield in the strait was estimated to be 5 to 10 times larger. Rear Admiral Charles Williams stated in a classified briefing that a full clearance of the strait under current conditions would require a minimum of 45 to 60 days. 45 days. The global economy does not have 45 days. It barely has 45 hours before the cascade begins. And then came the second shock, not from Iran, from inside the American alliance. The United Kingdom announced that it would contribute HMS Lancaster, a Type 23 frigate, and 2 Sandown-class mine hunters to the clearance effort. Helpful, but insufficient. France offered a single mine hunter. Germany offered diplomatic support. That was it. Diplomatic support. No ships, no aircraft, no personnel. The White House was reportedly furious. A senior official described the Allied response as the single greatest failure of collective defense since Suez. The comparison to Suez was deliberate. In 1956, the US torpedoed the British and French intervention. Now, the Europeans were torpedoing American military intervention. The alliance was not breaking, it had already broken. The crisis merely revealed the fracture lines that had been widening for years. Meanwhile, in the Indian Ocean, something unprecedented was forming. A Chinese naval task force was steaming west at 22 knots toward the Gulf of Oman. Beijing issued a terse statement declaring its sovereign right to protect Chinese commercial interests and ensure the safe passage of vessels. It made no reference to the United States. It simply announced that China was coming, not as an ally, not as a partner, as a unilateral actor with its own rules of engagement. Amanda, still at her workstation, tracked the Shandong's course. She was not thinking about capabilities. She was thinking about geometry. Amanda, still at her workstation, tracked the Shandong's course. She was not thinking about capabilities. She was thinking about geometry. 2 nuclear-armed navies, separated by less than 50 nautical miles, in the most tense environment on Earth. This was an escalation trap. She did not feel lucky. But the most dangerous variable was a decision being made in an underground command bunker outside Tehran. A decision that would determine the world's fate. The bunker is 80 meters beneath solid granite, immune to anything short of a nuclear strike. Here, an emergency session was convened 19 hours after the first detonation. The agenda was not whether to escalate, but how far, and the instrument of that escalation was not a missile, but a phone call. At 03:47 Tehran time, a secure line connected the bunker to a villa in the southern suburbs of Beirut, to the Secretary General of Hezbollah. Hezbollah's arsenal began to mobilize, not in a way that indicated imminent launch, but in a way designed to be detected by Israeli satellites. Tehran was communicating to Washington. The message was, if you strike our territory to reopen the strait, the next war will be fought in the streets of Haifa. Are you willing to pay it? The Israeli response was immediate. Operation Northern Shield was activated. Iron Dome batteries and stealth fighters were deployed to harden shelters. Israel was not waiting for permission. Israel was preparing to fight its own war on its own timeline. So be it. Now there were 4 military forces converging. 4 nuclear-capable states. 0 coordination. A loaded gun in a dark room full of blind men. Amanda watched the pattern. It was the pattern of July 1914. Interlocking alliances, automated mobilization, a small event setting everything in motion, and above all, the fatal assumption that the other side would back down. In 1914, nobody backed down. 20 million people died. The back channel opened through an unexpected intermediary, the Sultan of Brunei. His envoy arrived in Tehran with a handwritten concept on a single sheet of paper. The concept was simple. Iran would suspend the exclusion zone for 96 hours. In exchange, the US would halt mine clearance and agree to direct bilateral talks in Muscat. Xi's calculation was exquisite. China would not appear to retreat, but China would not be the reason the world caught fire. The supreme leader accepted. The exclusion zone was suspended. The first vessel, a Qatari LNG carrier bound for Yokohama, made the passage without incident. Headlines declared the crisis over, but Amanda knew better. 300 to 400 mines had been laid. Exactly 19 had been neutralized. That left hundreds still sitting on the seabed. But Amanda knew better. 300 to 400 mines had been laid. Exactly 19 had been neutralized. That left hundreds still sitting on the seabed. The suspension was not a resolution. It was a pause. The mines were still there. The launchers were still there. The stellar horizon was still burning. Everything had been deferred. And that is the real story. It revealed that the global economy is running on a single road with no detour. It revealed that powerful alliances cannot keep that road open. It revealed that institutions like the UN and NATO are structurally incapable of responding to a crisis that moves faster than a committee can convene. And it revealed something about you. You live in a world where the lights turn on, where gasoline flows, because of a 21-mile-wide strip of water you probably can't find on a map. And that world is exactly one bad decision, one miscalculation away from coming apart. Not slowly, overnight. The strait is the power grid beneath your feet. Tonight, someone is watching the water, waiting. You will not know their decision until you feel it. In the price at the pump, in the flicker of lights. Sleep well.